Hey, what's up everybody? Daddy Dave, Street Outlaws. So I want to show everybody a little carnage we had at the filming of America's List. We were doing really good. We started high on the list, went down a few spots, down meaning numerically down, which is good. So we started high, we worked our way towards number one, then we worked our way back up a little bit, and then we was on our way back down towards the number one spot, at least into the top five. That's what I was shooting for with the time allowed, but we had a little catastrophic failure that I wanted to show. So that hole is not supposed to be there. This is not supposed to be bent down. So when these things let loose, when they break a rod, sometimes you can get lucky and it just goes through the pan or something, but this one actually got into the block a little bit. So it will be coming out. I'm gonna take it down to Proline. The block is billet, so it can easily be fixed, but I'm sure it's going to need a new camshaft, probably a sleeve and some repairs in there, crankshaft. So it's probably going to be an expensive hickey boo-boo, but that's what you get for racing. That's what you get for trying to get to number one. And if everybody knows me, they'll know I'll drive that thing right to the limits, and half the time past the limits, as you can see. So we're gonna get it out, flip it over, take the pan off there and see what it looks like. So I took the pan off this thing just to see how bad it was. We had it off at race night, but I was filming and didn't get a chance to look at it. Travis took it all off and said it was pretty bad, so I took his word for it. And he threw the pan back on it and we pushed it back in the trailer, but here's the carnage. So as black as that crankshaft is, I'm going to say that it probably spun a rod bearing. That's why it's so black. And it locked the rod up, I would assume. So the rest of the piston is up in there. It's hard to see with the light. So there's the piston, and got the block pretty good right there. Although this is why we have retention pans. So all the oil that come out went into this pan and not all over the street. There's some pieces of the piston and rod. So here's the good stuff. There's part of the rod. More parts of the rod, and here's the bearing, a part of the bearing. They're not supposed to be black, so that tells me it spun the bearing first. Lock the rod up, blow a hole through the windage tray, destroyed the pan. I'm gonna get this thing out, get it to Proline, have them do their work to it. They'll weld the block up, they'll fix it all. You won't even be able to tell it was blowed up. Put new sleeve in it, probably new crank, new pistons, new set of rods, and we'll get this thing back in the car and get it ready for NPK. This is what we call the small blower. It's a 121, it's what I run down the street. So when this thing goes back together, it won't have this one on there. This is what drives the fuel pump. Belt driven. Turns this thing, turns the fuel pump. get it up, get the converter bolts out, unhook all the wiring and stuff, and then we'll get the transmission out. As you can see, I got the transmission out. In realistic time, start to finish, it's like a 30-minute process. Everything on this car is made so it's easy to work on, easy to get to. Pull a couple pins, you know, and the transmission tunnel, shifter, all that stuff comes out and gets out of your way. I think the longest process of this whole deal is getting the torque converter bolts out. You got to turn the motor over, and there's a hole about this big that you got to work through to get 6 bolts out. That's probably takes the longest out of everything. If it wasn't for that, you know, it'd be a 15-minute process to get it out. But it's all easy to work on. It comes out fairly easy. It's got a Bonifanti titanium bell housing on it. I've seen the videos to where they actually spin a flywheel fast enough inside this to explode it, just to see if it will withstand it, and it does. You can go on their website, Pro Torques or Bonifanti, and look at those videos. They exploded a flywheel in here, and it didn't even dent the can. So, and that was a big issue with me when we moved everything back in this car, was my feet. Like, I need my feet. So, I was scared to death of flywheels at the RPM they spin, and they come apart. And torque converters blow up and stuff, so Bonifanti, I got this bell housing from them, and I feel real safe about it. Like, I don't think anything's going to come through it. The transmissions, you know, the cases are SFI, they're approved, so not a lot to worry about there. And the reason that we have to take the transmission out to get the motor out is because of the mid plate. It only has a hole this big for the crankshaft to come through, and your flywheel's this big. So you have to pull the transmission out to get the flywheel off, to get the motor out. A lot of people cut big holes in their mid plates for the flywheels to fit through. I don't feel real safe doing that, because essentially it is your firewall. The mid plate acts as part of the firewall, and if you go cutting a big ass hole in there and something does happen to where the car catches on fire, the motor explodes, or there's a fire out there, I don't want that stuff coming through and burning me. We'll take a look at it. So the hole in the mid plate is just big enough for the crankshaft to come through, and not big enough for the flywheel to fit through. So you gotta take the flywheel off to get the motor out. This is the little hole I was referring to get the torque converter bolts out. It's a small opening that you got to work through. That's what takes so long. But you know, you got a 4-inch hole versus a 13-inch hole for fire to come through. If something ever happened, yes, fire can come through here and, you know, a couple other small spots, but it's not a big hole. It's a safety thing, and I prefer just not to cut the big hole in there. Fire scares the hell out of me, so I don't take the chance. Just got the tranny out, get the motor out tomorrow. Everybody complains about Proline, and they're expensive and they can't afford them, but they don't look at the customer service that comes with it. Proline already knows what has happened to this motor. Of course, they've seen it before, so they know what it takes to fix it and repair it. So Carrie, Eric Dillard, all those guys down there, like, they already know what's coming, and they know what they've got to do to get it fixed. They keep a large selection of parts in stock for these motors because there's a lot of them out there. A lot of people run them because it's honestly, it's just a good combination. So they know it's coming. I'll head down there this week with it. They'll get it in, get it fixed. It's February 6th today. No Prep Kings season 5 starts April 8th and April 9th. So we got just enough time probably to get the motor fixed, go over the car front to back, make sure the trailer's all stocked up and ready to go before we head out to do MPK of season 5. Hopefully they can get this thing fixed, get it all back together, make a couple hits on it before we head out to Florida for the first event. We'll get it out tomorrow and I'll head to Proline with it. As you can see, we got motor out, trainees out, trainee to go get freshened up. Motor's gonna go straight to Proline to get that mishap fixed, get freshened up, get ready for MPK season 5, which I'm super excited about. And we crashed the car last year early in Georgia, and we missed a bunch of events. But we came back, made the last 3 events, and we were making headway on that deal. Ended up last race, went to the semifinals with Ryan Martin, Little Country, and me and one other person. I can't remember who it was. But the car's fast. We got a handle on it, and we're gonna pick up exactly where we left off. Hopefully we can win some of these events and/or shoot for the championship this year is what I'm trying to do. If we can keep everything together and make all the events, we stand a really good chance of it. So we're gonna get this to Proline, get it fixed, get it freshened, get the transmission gone through, put a new rear end in it from Quick Performance. Have the torque converter looked at. We're gonna go front to back, make sure it's all right, make sure we got something good to start with, and hopefully finish out the year with, finish out the season.